Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something fascinating, the invisible forces that really shape our modern economy. I'm talking about intangible assets. These are often the most valuable things a company owns, but here's the catch. You can't see them, you can't touch them. So how in the world do we define something we can't physically hold? Well, let's get into it. Just think about it for a second. What are some really valuable things we can't see or touch? You've got brands, right? Like Coca-Cola, or the software code behind Windows, or even a secret formula for a life-saving drug. None of these are factories or machines you can walk through, but their value? It's absolutely massive. This simple question is really at the heart of what we're exploring today.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, what we're going to do is take the official kind of technical definition, and we're just going to break it down, piece by piece. The goal here is to turn what sounds like boring accounting speak into a really simple, powerful idea that actually makes sense. And there it is, straight from the International Valuation Standards. An intangible asset is an identifiable, non-monetary asset with no physical substance. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds a little dense, right? A bit of a mouthful. But trust me on this. Every single word in that sentence is there for a reason, and we're going to unpack them one at a time.
All right, first up, the identifiable test. Think of this as the first hurdle an asset has to jump over. It's kind of like the gatekeeper of the whole definition, and it all comes down to one simple concept: separation.
So let's ask the obvious question here. What does it actually mean for something to be identifiable if you can't even see it, right? How do you point to something that isn't physically there? It's a fantastic question, and you know what? The answer is way more practical than you might think. And here's the deal. Identifiable just means you can separate it from the rest of the business. That's it. Could you sell the brand name to someone else? Could you license out a patent you own? If the answer is yes, if you can do a deal with it all on its own, then boom, it's passed the first test. Okay, so it's identifiable. We're 1/3 of the way there. Now let's move on to part 2 of our definition, the monetary test. See, just being separable isn't quite enough. The asset also has to meet this other really important requirement about its financial nature. Now, this part can feel a little weird at first. We keep talking about how valuable these things are, so how can they be non-monetary? It's a great point, but this distinction is actually super important for understanding why a patent is treated differently from, a pile of cash in the bank. And this really breaks it down nicely. A monetary asset, that's just cash, or a rate to receive a fixed amount of cash. Think of an invoice you've sent out. So what's a non-monetary asset? Well, pretty much anything that isn't that. An intangible asset isn't cash itself. It's the thing that creates the cash. And because of that, its value isn't fixed. It can go up or down. Okay, we're on the home stretch. We've arrived at the third and final part of the definition. And honestly, this is probably the one that makes the most sense right off the bat. It's the part that actually gives intangible assets their name. It's all about whether they have a physical form or not. So this part seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? If it's intangible, you can't touch it. Simple. But what does that really mean when we're trying to define things? What actually qualifies as having no physical substance? And this really gets to the heart of it. A physical asset is a building, a computer, a delivery truck. You can kick the tires. An intangible asset, on the other hand, is a brand, a copyright, maybe a customer list. It doesn't exist as a physical thing you can lock up in a warehouse. It exists as a legal right or an idea. All right, so we've basically taken this big, clunky definition and broken it down into its 3 key parts. We've looked at each one pretty closely. Now, let's put it all back together and see just how simple and logical it really is. So here you go. We've turned that jargon into a simple 3-step checklist. Number 1, is it identifiable? Meaning, can you sell it separately? Number 2, is it non-monetary? Is it something other than cash? And number 3, does it have no physical substance? Can you actually touch it? If you get a yes, and a no, congratulations, you've got yourself an intangible asset. It's a super useful way to think about where the hidden value in a business really lies. So let's look at that definition one more time. An identifiable non-monetary asset with no physical substance. It doesn't sound so intimidating now, does it? Now you can see how each word has a job, and they all work together to perfectly describe these incredibly powerful but totally invisible drivers of our modern economy. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Today, we've got a handle on defining things like brands and patents, but as our world gets more and more digital, with things like AI, massive data sets, even our own digital identities,
what comes next? What new kinds of invisible value are popping up right now that we haven't even figured out how to define yet? It's a pretty wild thing to think about.